on time and within the budget that you did, and have done a quality work so you can be hired again. So that's the goal of any project, guys, commercial project or industrial project. We talked about, like I said, about why the project managers exist, because you want to lead a project into success, right? I hope. Um, and number two, we talked about change, Adam, and we said change is hard, um, very hard. And as a project manager, Derek, when you become project manager, you and Karen and Adam and Matt, you're going to find the hardest thing is to get people to move from point A to point B, especially if you're used to moving from point A to point C and now you're going to move them to point B. It's very hard, and how do you motivate people to do the change? So that was a whole chapter that we talked about. Today, guys, chapter 3 talks about leadership. And you're going to hear about management versus leadership, and there is tons and tons and tons and tons of books written about leadership. When you are a project manager, Adam, you are a leader. You're leading a project. How do you lead a project? You lead it to success. What is the definition of a successful project? A project that have been quality, done in a quality manner within budget on time. That's a successful project. What's in it for you? An F-250? Do they have F-250 truck for you at the end of the project as a project manager? Job security, self-satisfaction. Wouldn't you feel good? When we went to Egan, guys, you saw all those gentlemen, what is it, John, I think, taking pride of the project that they have done. Same thing at Parsons and Egan and Hunt. You take a pride that this hospital is your product. That's a personal pride that we take. And in addition to that one, of course, we're making a living, so there's a good satisfaction for you. Okay, but you're a leader, and when you're working for yourself, Derek, like right now, you only care about yourself and your work when you're working. When people, 5, 6 people are working for you, their success and failure is your success and failure. So that changed the game. They changed completely different rules. Okay, so we talked about leadership encourage. So if you're a leader, the first thing you need to encourage people, guys, you're a coach, basically. Excellence. You're going to encourage excellence. Raise the bar. Encourage the people to reach their potential. That's probably single most important thing that you can do as a leader. So you're going to do. So you're going to encourage people to perform excellence. Commitment to the project. You do not want people working for you who are not committed to the project, Matt. So complete commitment to the project. You need to motivate the people, intrinsic motivation, motivate the people who are working for you, ownership of the project. You heard wherever we went, guys, people live their project. When they're doing estimating or we're doing design, you live the project. Any project manager loves the employee who believes the project is their own. It's just their own. And they're willing to put the time, guys, to succeed, for the project to succeed. Employees who watch the clock and it's 3 o'clock and I'm done, even though we have not submitted our job and we're, under the gun. Project managers don't like them that much. You need, obviously, we're not going to be enslaved, right? We have family and things to run. But Derek, your job is to convince your leader that if that project is yours, even if you take it home and work on it, and most of employers, guys, and managers, they understand the balance between work and life, so they're not going to enslave you, basically. They do. But it means a lot to your project manager if when you're done and there's a due date on Friday, and it's Friday at 4 o'clock, and you're not done, it means a lot to your supervisor. I said, supervisor, would you like me to stay to finish with you guys as a team, a member of the team? Or would you like me to take something and do it at home and work this weekend if needed to submit this project? Just the idea of telling the people, guys, that you're willing to sacrifice part of your weekend or work on a Friday afternoon until 6 o'clock if needed, when needed, it means a lot to the project manager. So ownership of the project, that's what you want the people who work for you. You want them to own the project. Innovation, you don't want to suffocate the people who are working for you. Derek, you and I talked on Friday, we talked about when we have a project, guys, and we're heading from this point to this point, this is the path. This is called the plan. that you're taking your project from this point into this point, which is the end of the project, right? Now, you don't want to be choke the people and you want them to exactly follow this direction. So a project will fluctuate. Look at that. This is how your project will move, fluctuate up and down, but ultimately it's heading in the right direction. That's where you allow the people for innovation to do things slightly different, but you can see it's moving in the right direction. What you don't want to do is your project to fluctuate in this direction. You see what I mean? So now we did not reach our destination. The project failed. We lost money, right? So that's where innovation is. If people working for you want to do things differently and you know it's diverging them a little bit away from the direction. Can you see this direction now is not heading towards the end? And there's some innovation, okay, but at one point, Adam, right here, as a project manager, you have to take ownership and say, well, maybe it's great, that innovation, but remember, we need to keep kind of direct them slightly to go back into the direction that we're heading towards the end of that project. Does that make sense, guys? That give you enough innovation for people to to excel, do what they want to do, and at the same time, you keep an eye on the end of the project. I always use this, guys. If you're heading to England and you end up in Africa, you failed. But at the end of the day, Karen, we know that a lot of good stuff have been invented because of failure. And I'm being an engineer myself, as I'm very aware of if you stick to a plan, it might kill the innovation. It might, but remember, in our industry, guys, construction and engineering industry, we are delivering a project. If you work for NASA, or if you work for other industries in a lab, you should have for the most part, no plan. That you're a scientist. You should invent things, experiment and fail and all this stuff. But unfortunately, our line of work is construction and engineering. People pay us, guys, to deliver a project. If you do not deliver the project at the end of the day and you invented something new, your company might go down. Does that make sense, guys? The difference between being innovative and have innovation at the same time, we keep an eye on a project. You are there to deliver a project. Engineering project at Michelle Cooley Erickson, or a construction project at Derek at Parsons, or any type of project. Keep an eye on the project. Does that make sense, guys? The whole heading was a project. Autonomy. People need, guys, you don't want to micromanage people, guys. When people are working for you, you need to give them enough space to grow and make certain decisions. And that's part of that fluctuation. I don't know if you guys can see that fluctuation here. That fluctuation, people take their autonomous and do things their own way. And you as a project manager, Derek, is keep an eye on them, because there are certain people who are fiercely independent, rightfully so, and very creative, to the point where they do not reach the destination on time. Remember, there is a time here. It's not just enough. So here's 0 and here's 300 days. I want to reach my destination in 300 days. If you reach the destination is 400 days, your project have failed. Done. It doesn't matter reaching the destination, guys. What matters is we reach the destination on time. If you reach the destination here and you are the budget and you're supposed to be here, here's your time and here's your budget, $5 million. You reach the destination, but you reached it way at $6 million. On time, but you spend $1 million extra, your project failed. And I'm not saying, guys, things doesn't happen. You have to have a justification. Change order, remember the change order? Now, here's where change order happens. We're doing change order. So you factor this in. And this curve, the plan might change because of change orders in the field. But there's still a plan, though. Plan that controls the time and control the budget. Time and budget, that's what you're watching. Allow the people to move, fluctuate. We're fluctuate here. Here's your autonomous atom. Run within that area. But if it goes up to here, you start fluctuating that far. Don't you think we're in problem, guys? We're not going to reach our destination. So these are the things that you have to keep on us. Give the people enough time. When you go, Derek, at Parsons, they allow you to putz around and do your own things. But to project manager, I hope watching, there's time and budget. Go run around with your own sheets and whatever. But ultimately, we're going to fluctuate, but we're heading towards the end. there's an end for this thing. The last thing, Karen, is trust. You need to trust the people that work for you. If the trust is broken, it's done. We'll talk about teams in a second, guys, when you build a team, but trust is so important, guys, to be able to trust. I trust that Adam will be able to take this project. And trust, the only way, I don't know, you might agree or disagree, Karen, the only way you can get trust is through time. So Derek, I hired you to work for me and you worked for 5 projects and you delivered on time. Now you gain my trust. Trust is not born by looking at you, you look nice, I'm going to trust you. You know what I mean? That's called first impression. First impression is great. But what's important, guys, to prove is the experience. Me and you and everybody else. That's when you go to the company, they watch it for 1 whole year. They're watching what you're doing. Are you delivering on time, within budget? Yep. So you gain the trust. The more trust you gain, guys, the more autonomous you will be given, and the more innovation you can have in your project, and the more ownership you can take of your project to lead and run your project independently. Any comments, guys? Any questions about these leadership encourages? That's what you, as a leader, you need to be encouraging these people to get their potential. So that's okay. So also leaders, guys, have a vision. When you have, like we talked, our vision. Now we're not talking about leaders. I am not qualified to go to talk about leaders of the United States of America or leaders of GE. We're talking about a project manager at the level of a project manager. When you guys, that's what the leadership that you go into, a project manager leadership that could lead you to leading the organization. You have to have a vision for your people, mission, vision for the organization. We are the best electrical contractor in the state of Minnesota. That's our mission or vision. So, and towards this, you direct the people and make them buy into it. We're good for the country and the state, and we're good for the people. Some of us guys are motivated with a mission that take care of our Mother Nature. So you add a Mother Nature component in it. We're environmentally friendly mission. Where when we design a system, we take sustainability onto this. That motivates a lot of people, guys. Believe it or not. Rightfully so, though. Taking care of the weakest among us, Adam. We are an organization that donates every year for the poor. So if I know that my organization donates to the poor people every time and takes care of Mother Nature, it makes me more loyal, like the mission, more likely that will follow my leaders. So anyway, so all these guys, the motivation, the vision that you have to do, very, very important. So that's a few things about what a leader can do. This is leaders should respect project team. When you have a project, we talked about project, you create every project as you create a project team. Leaders should respect project team members, should respect their inputs and listening. And probably this is the hardest thing that you're going to be nailed on, Derek and Matt, when you guys are project managers. You will be accused that, well, it depends where, like in a government or a nonprofit organization and what's not, the more relaxed type of management, guys, you will be accused you're not listening to me. In the construction industry, Adam, it's a kind of more tight industry. They don't take a lot of stuff that happen in government organization or nonprofit organization. Don't take it lightly. So listening, well, they will listen to you. But listening to a limit, like I said, remember the goal, always the goal. We're going from here to here. If listening to you, Adam, is going to lead me to here, as a project manager, I have to listen to you, but I have politely to tell you we are not going to go that route because that will diverge us from our project, right? But you are obligated to listen to the professionals that work for you as a project manager. Allow them to make decisions for their own projects. And that sometimes is so hard, Karen, if you know that people are making the wrong decisions. But what makes a decision, guys, a right decision or a wrong decision, right? I could make a decision right now. I think it's right today, tomorrow is going to be wrong. So when you're working on a construction project, allow your team to make decisions. Allow them to contact the contractors, make certain things. And I can't emphasize, Derek, you keep an eye on the big picture. There is a fluctuation. If you see one of your designers or one of your estimators hitting an up direction, at one point, if they don't return back, you might have to remind them to stay on track. But empower them to make decisions, encourage their professional growth. I don't know if they talk to you, Adam or Derek. A lot of good organizations care about your growth. Nobody wakes up in the morning and go to work saying, "How am I going to screw up today?" Does anybody? I mean, even the worst, the most laziest person on earth does not wake up in the morning and saying, "How am I going to screw up today?" You know what I mean? You want to do work, you don't want to be enslaved like everybody else, but we take pride, guys. Most 99.99% of human beings take pride of what they do, regardless of what you do. So in order to, but people don't do a good job because they're not trained. So Adam, they put you in a BIM project and you are not delivering on time. There's a reason for not that one. For example, training. I need more training for BIM training. So professional growth. Pay a lot of attention to their professional growth. A lot of companies, guys, invite speakers to come to their organizations. Send them for training. Mishad and Parsons and everybody else. They have in-house training for them. Part of what I did with you guys is we went to industry expert estimators to teach us how they estimate. Have you guys noticed that? That's part of the training. You guys are being trained by your friend Chad, but I'm not an expert in estimating. We went and we visited with the experts in estimating, and they told you how they do it. So that's the whole idea. The same thing on organization. I don't know, Derek, if they align for you something for training already at Parsons, but they will when Accubit come to town, which they come for 2 or 3 days, I believe. I bet you you will be the first in line because you're newest into going and getting more training with Accubit. Um, and professional growth, guys, is part of it is the training, and part of it is we had a bunch of people here, guys. Every time from Simpson Electric into Parsons and everybody else, they tell you, Adam, you're going to start at this point right here with us, and here's where you can reach this point. Okay, so this is where you start, and this is where you reach, and from here to here, gentlemen, is time. So if you guys remember, and this is your growth curve. So some of us can have a laid back growth curve like this. That's Chad. Some of us are harder, straight shot growth path, but they have to tell you what's your growth in this organization. I started today. After 5 years, where am I supposed to be? So at Parsons Electric, typically in 5, 6 years, you'll become a project manager or a lead designer if you're doing the design, or lead estimator. So you lead multiple estimating projects. At Michelle Cooley, you can become a project manager. That's your ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal, which you become for 20 years, is ownership of the organization. A lot of people, guys, are employee-owned organizations, and you call them partners, and you're going to see every organization at a certain time when you're very, very important to the organization, you become a stakeholder of this organization. You're a partner. So, but not everybody can reach this point, but at least they're obligated to tell you a time scale like this, guys. Here's your 2 years, you're going to reach this destination. At 5 years, you're going to be right here. At 6 years, you're going to be right here. And knowing that some people take them longer to reach destination than others. So that's your professional growth. A good organization that cares about their employees have a professional growth curve for your employees. Where you start, where you end, and how long will it take you, knowing that these are guidelines. I can't emphasize that. Everything you write here is a guidelines. I can't emphasize when you have a curve like this. Remember the fluctuation. You fluctuate, but you're heading towards the right direction, though. You screw up a project. You're heading in the wrong direction right here. That's screw up a project. They're not going to kill you. So they direct you a little bit. Okay, give you some training. You went back here. Now you're doing great on the project. So you fluctuate as long as you're heading in the right direction. You're good to go. Any comments, guys? Any questions about professional growth? You need a professional growth. You, Derek and Matt, when you become a project managers, you need to have a professional growth for the people who work for you. Otherwise, you're going to lose them. When the market is hot, guys, when the market is down, people don't tend to jump ships. But when the market is hot, people will leave you. And you've seen a lot of people jumping around from one another. So you need to, especially the people who care about, which I assume most of your team or all of your team, You have to give them a professional growth on it. Problem solving with them when they make mistakes. Expect people to make mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, if you think you walk into your project manager at Michelle Cool Erickson expect you now to make a mistake. It's expectation as an entry-level employee guys to make mistakes. What you want to do is learn from your mistakes. I tell the people guys over and over, the people who got laid off, I've been 12 years here, and I can tell you employees who I graduated after 4 or 5 years, they got laid off. And the main reason is, or one of the part of the reason is making mistakes. You are allowed to make mistakes once, twice, 3 times, but you can't keep doing the same mistake over and over and over again. So what I encourage you and Derek, you do that one in math. Write yourself a note. Every time you have a question and you made a mistake, write it down. You're a professional. Write down, learn from it. Don't make it again. Try not to make it again. Problem solve it. When you have a mistake, now you as a project manager, when you have a mistake, do not, and it's hard for us guys, don't correct the mistake. For example, if I come right now and look at your Accubid and you have a mistake in the tabs, don't just correct it. Show you where the mistake is. Here's where your mistake is, Adam. Correct it next time. Now the expectation next time that you wrote it down, you understand it, and next time you wouldn't do it, right? Maybe next time you'll do it, right? Now there are 2 hits. The third time, you shouldn't do it. Especially for your employer. Now with chat, we have flexible schedule here, but in real project guys, circuit when we were doing Revit, guys, tagging and circuiting. A lot of you came to me when we were doing it, maybe ask the same question twice, 3 times, that's fine. You go start tagging and circuiting at Michelle. Okay, how do you tag? I forgot how to tag. Here's how you tag. You go to one of their gurus, I tag this way, done. Now, a month from now, you need to tag. You can't go back again and ask, how do I tag again? How do I circuit again? You have to stick it in your brain or write down. I do personally what I do, guys, write because I forget. All of us forget. I don't know about you, Derek, but I forget all the time. Write down the most important things on a piece of paper. Here's how you do this. So next time, if I encounter this problem, that's how I do it. Okay, but as a project manager, you're supposed to solve the problem with them so they can learn from it. If there's any obstacles toward the success of the people, guys, you as a project manager should eliminate these obstacles. An obstacle would be my obstacle when we guys got into Accubid. The industry wanted us to do Accubid, right? I've never used Accubid. That was an obstacle. So the industry, being my leader and the people who hire you, they say, Chad, we'll support you, no problem. And you've seen the support that we got for Accubid. Do you guys agree that we got an awesome support? Anybody here, come. That's what you're going to do as a project manager. If you care about the process, which you should as a project manager, any obstacles, guys, in the path of your employees should be removed. And most of these guys is training. Now, if every night you fight with your girlfriend and you have social issues, which some of us do, guys, I don't know how much the company can help you with that. When they'll help you, I mean, they care about you, but they're not social workers. When I was working at RB Beckett, Derek, I had a guy, I'm not kidding you, he was sitting next to me, and at 9 o'clock, his wife calls him, and they were effing each other on the phone. I'm not kidding you. They have marriage problem, I assume, and they were yelling at each other, and our supervisor was sitting, like maybe 10, 15 feet away from us. Everybody can hear what everybody's in the cubicles. Everybody can hear. And he's yelling and effing and they're effing and he slammed the phone and what's not. And he did it multiple times. He has some issues, marriage problem. And I remember clearly after I was there, after a couple of weeks, our supervisor escorted him outside. The last time he was effing on the phone and he came with the security. They took him off and escorted him off his desk and escorted him outside the building. This is unacceptable behavior. So I'm sure, I feel so, very good designer, was very good designer, but social problem. So you can't allow your social life guys to interfere on your with your business. With Jufri as project manager, we all have problems. You ask me, I can keep you busy for 2 hours talking about my problems with my wife and kids and everything else. You leave it aside. I'm not saying we're machines when we come. We talk about it, but not to the point of taking the time of the organization or behave unprofessionally because of our social problems. So be very, very careful of that one. Because, so But as a project managers, you are to think of the success of your employees, guys. I cannot solve the problem of you and your girlfriend. That's something as a project manager I can't. I can listen to you. You're good. One of my good employees. If you want to come one day over lunch, we'll go and talk about your problem. Maybe as a friend, I can give you a couple of advices. But I'm not a social worker, and your employees are not social workers, guys, or not. What do you call them? Marriage counselors. So keep in mind, marriage counselors and social workers, leave it aside. So bring yourself fully to the organization, and don't bring your package with you. And the last thing, guys, is thank them for doing a good job. It's great to be thanked. We all like to be thanked. So when they do a great job, a lot of organization, Derek, you'll see it at Parsons when they finish a project and they succeed, they throw a party for a lot of people. So thank the people and a good manager. A good manager, remember guys, the manager take the credit for the success of the project ultimately. But a good manager will go to his team if there's a party and publicly thank each and every one of those members for the success of the project. That's what a good manager is. Because ultimately, if I am the manager, guys, and you work for me and I take the credit every time a project, Derek is going to sit there and say, I'm not getting anything out of this. Why should I work for him? Or why should I work hard for him? So it's really nice when I stand right here and I thank publicly all of you for a successful year or a successful project. Wouldn't you think that would go a long way for a lot of people? And publicly thanking people is one thing, and sharing the profit is a whole another thing, guys. When you succeed in a project, and if the organization is doing well, a good manager will think of the people who made this project succeed and financially thank them too. That goes a long way. Throwing a $500, $1,000 around Christmas for you to go shop for your family. Wouldn't you think this is really nice? Wow, the organization care about me and my family around the holidays. Within that, don't you think it's really nice? So these are the good men. Ultimately, we're human beings, guys. So, and a big project, $1,000 or $500 is nothing in the scheme of a big project. When you go to an employee who is making 1/3 of what the manager is making, remember, those guys are making 1/3 of what a manager is making, or some of you a half, but not more than that. And you throw $500 at them or $1,000 at the end of the year for a holiday or whatever, it goes a long way. So thank them publicly, thank them, and thank them by giving them something if you can, and when the organization can. So that's a few things, guys, about leadership and how you can motivate people. This is just scratching the surface about this book, guys. Really nice. I cannot emphasize. You can be a project manager and have multiple books and textbooks, but this is really down to earth, common sense, things that you have to keep to be a good project manager. So that's if their needs. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna. I don't know if we forgot some of this stuff. Okay. And before you guys, we talked about encouraging all this stuff. You need to, I always say, set the goals for the people. The goal is very easy for us in the construction industry. A successful project, on time, under budget. That's it. Our goals are very, very easy, with a quality work. And keep coolness. You don't sit in your office and F every time you couldn't find the assembly, Derek, and you're in Accubit, bam, and you slam the door behind you and all this good stuff. That's called professionalism. So keep cool, have fun, look at the clock, watch the time, watch the calendar, write your goals, achieve quality work within the budget, and on time. And that's, as an employee, will be successful, and if you are the manager, of course, that's what you want your employees to do. Okay, so that's basically what I want to mention, guys. Any comments, any questions about leadership? The last thing you want to do is, I always say, and I was a manager for 6 years. If you talk to certain people, said Chad was the worst manager God ever created. And you talk to others, they tell you Chad, the best manager that God ever created. People are different, guys. They see you differently, and get used to it. It really is. Get used to it. And you have to also take into consideration, Adam, that if you cannot handle the heat that project manager can get, you shouldn't be a project manager. You're not going to please everybody. Some people will be upset with you when you manage a project, and you know, your goal is not to piss off everybody in your team and make everybody mad at you. Your goal is to make make people work for you, work successfully, be happy to work for you. But ultimately, your main goal, finish a project on time within budget. That's your ultimate goal. Now, in between, you should take care of people, train them, compensate them, thank them. These are all things that support the ultimate goal, which is a quality project done on time within budget. If anything interfere with this main goal, it doesn't matter how nice you are, Derek, to your employees, the people who answer to you, if at the end you lost $500,000. Does it matter? Guys, we're not sharing and caring hands. We are in the business of, I love sharing and caring hands, don't misunderstand me, but we are in the business of making money. That's ultimately. So this is the goal. Some people forget sometimes, especially the employees who have been there for a long time. Well, I gave 20 years of my life to the organization. Well, the organization paid your mortgage and your food for 20 years. As a manager, you don't tell them that, of course. But in the back of your mind, and I was a manager and I'm an employee too. But in the back of my mind, and I have been told that, in the back of my mind, well, but the organization also paid your mortgage and your car and everything else for 20 years. Don't you think that's kind of a balance? But you wouldn't tell them that, of course. But in the back of your mind, isn't that the truth? I gave 20 years of my life for this organization. Yeah, the organization gave 20 years of it to support you and your family and your friends and whatever you know what I mean? So that's the balance that you have to strike, but you wouldn't tell the employee that though. That's harsh on certain people. But those are the people who, if you take a decision and they don't like, they will be upset with you. But ultimately, you have to play politics and diplomacy and take the people who that they're upset, gauge what's going on. You might have to take one man to your best off today, after we finish the project. And you're a good employee. Granted, you're a good employee, but you're pissed off at me as your manager. What I would do after we finish the project, take you individually and let you vent with me. Why are you pissed off? Vent here, one-on-one. Vent, you know what I mean? What I always tell the people, guys, a good manager like when the people tell me how bad I am. But you can't stand in front of a meeting and say, Chad is with all the employees and start saying bad things about your manager. That's something a lot of managers don't like. But individually, one-on-one, inside a closed office, and if they ask you how are they doing, you have a moral obligation to tell them exactly what you think. I'm a firm believer of that. But you can't stand in front of a whole meeting and say, throw them under the bus. That's what a lot of managers don't like that. Any comments, guys? Any questions? I'm going to give you 5 minutes here, and then flip back into communication as part of leads for project managers. So, about chapter 4 in this book, Karen, talks about communication. You guys have taken a lot of communication classes, don't you? Communication as in dealing with people, talking to people, get information from people. So when you are a successful project manager who wants to lead a project to a success, which is within budget, on time, with happy employees and happy customer, that was the most successful. When you lead a project, Derek, within budget, on time, your team who implement the project, including the electricians who are working for you, they're happy. Your employees in the office are happy. The customer is happy. This is the most successful project that you can achieve, right? Happy employees internally and externally, and happy customer within budget, on time. That's what your goal to be. Now, in order to reach this goal, there's a couple of tools there, and we talked about changes, and we talked about leadership, how to motivate people and make them buy into the project and what's not. Communicating. We as a human being, guys, deal with each other through we communicate. I'm communicating with you right now. I'm talking, right? So communicating. The most important things, Karen, and probably know about this topic more than I do. When you communicate with people, they tell you need to know what is their favorite style of communication, allowing people to use their most comfortable medium of communication that they can encounter. comfortable medium. Encourage more frequent and communication. So I want to ask, some people are not public speakers, some of your employees are not public speakers, guys. So they can communicate in different ways with you regarding the project. Remember, ultimately, our goal is to a successful project when we communicate. Talking about the bar and the Vikings and all the other teams and things, that's great. Um, but ultimately, your communication within the company is about the project. So some people like listeners like to sit in the meetings, weekly meetings. You sit in the meetings and you communicate the progress and the plan for the success with them through listening to you. So you give them, you talk to them, and they'll achieve it. Others are readers. They like to send them an email, guys, or send me a piece of paper. I'm one of those guys. I don't like when I have something. I like to have a book in front of me. I like to have a plan. So that's why I like books a lot, because a book is focus your mind. If you forgot certain things, what Chad is saying, it's right here in this book. So readers, they like to read, guys, things. So tell them what they want in an email, a list, printed or email, that will be the best for them. Exchangers, there's a couple of people, guys, exchangers, they like to sit and discuss things, aka argue. So those are the guys, how they get things. They get motivated by sitting there and discussing. And I cannot emphasize the the graph that I always draw, guys. This is the end, and this is your beginning right here, and you're heading towards it. That's part of your fluctuation. How much you're going to allow fluctuation to reach this destination. So that's too much fluctuation. As long as this discussion, guys, this fluctuation is discussion and opinions, and what, as long as you're heading in the right direction, no problem with that. Even if you think in the back of your mind, what a waste of time. We wasted 10 minutes of doing certain things. You might have to allow people to, because that's how they communicate, how they get things done. Um, so we have manipulators. Manipulators, these guys like to communicate by doing things. So don't talk to me, just tell me what you're going to do and I'll go do it. And that's how we communicate with you, by doing things um, in our industry. Viewers, there's some people that like to view things, graphic, show me a graphic, show me something, a visual, basically, to communicate with. So these are a few things that you have to keep in mind when you're dealing with people. You have to pick and a good manager will use all of the above. A good manager will, when you're a project manager, and I have been told that, when I was a project manager, that's not the way to do it. But depending what you think, guys, when you go to a meeting, the first and the most important thing you need to do is to have an agenda for the meeting. If you have a meeting with no agenda, why are you having the meeting, right? What's your agenda? Why are we meeting today? Or your agenda could be a no agenda meeting. That could be your agenda in the meeting. So a lot of people, guys, walk in for half an hour. Okay, let's talk about the project. A good manager, Derek, will have a list of things in his mind that he want to talk about. Now, in order to be not to be a dictator, Matt, he will communicate these things ahead of time to all the team members. He say, "Hey, Matt and Adam and Karen, here's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow morning, on Monday morning at 7 o'clock or 7:30 meeting. Do you guys have anything to add to?" Right? So because a good manager can see further than, you should be able to see further than all the team members, right? You're looking at a big picture. So a good manager, guys, when comes Monday morning meetings or Friday afternoon meetings, whenever you put your meeting to communicate with your people, have a plan, have the things that you need to discuss, send it to the people, and now you as an employee are obligated. I always say, and that's where I got the heat when I was a manager, obligated to put what you want to talk about in this meeting. Now, if you did not put it in this meeting and you came to the meeting and you want to talk certain things, well, you had your chance of putting on the meeting, didn't you? Right, Derek, don't you? Of course, you don't want to tell him that one, but you communicate the agenda. People get back to the agenda, what they have. If they don't have anything, that's okay too. And then you come to a meeting with an agenda. Now, if we're supposed to talk about I don't know about dealing with the low voltage today. This meeting is about low voltage, and Karen jumped from there and she wants to talk about power layout. Now remember, the meeting today is about what? Low voltage, right? We're going to talk about power. Now that doesn't fit within the power is very important, but it doesn't fit, guys, within the parameters of this meeting. So important to have an agenda. Stick to the agenda because people tend take a tendency of moving things in every direction. You're a manager. You have to be in a very nice but decisive way and keep things on track. You have to keep things on track all the time. Otherwise, people tend to take the meeting into no end, no end. So I can't emphasize. So with the people that answer to you, Derek, you're going to communicate with them in multiple ways: emails, meetings in person, an agenda for meetings, talk about the project, allow the people to have their inputs in the project. And I always say the hardest thing, guys, is when you have 5 things on your agenda and you start discussing one thing and you barely, it's half an hour is gone, right? So that's the challenge. That how are you going to keep, if these 5 things are so important for our meeting today, you make sure that the people understand that one and they can discuss these topics in half an hour. Um, if you need more time, you have to assign more time to them, or don't put on the meeting agenda more than you can handle. Um, so if what I did when I was a manager, Derek, if you have a topic that people are dear to their hearts and we'll discuss it. And remember, we are an organization, non-profit organization, so this is the most huggy-feely organization you can get. This is not Parson where you land things and move on. So I used to say, well, do you guys want another meeting to discuss this topic? Because we have half an hour to discuss and go back to our teaching, right? Do you want another meeting to discuss this topic? And most people don't like meetings, of course, right? How about if we assign it to a different meeting? Let's take another. Seems dear to your heart. We can't discuss it today. I understand now. Let's schedule an hour to discuss this topic. That's something that you can do. If certain things came in the meetings and people want to discuss it more, you can assign a separate meeting to it. So be very, very careful, guys, of people who tend to diverge things further from the goal that you need to. Okay, so that's basically what you need to know what the best way of communicating with people. I don't know about Parson, but a lot of project manager guys are personable. So they walk around and, hey, Derek, how are you doing today? And blah, blah, blah. They tend to be more personable. That's, believe it or not, even if they're not personable, if you're a project, you have to be. To be a successful project manager. People like people who are personable, right? Talk, laugh, look you in the eye, and do all this good stuff. They like him. And they tend to listen to you more. Believe it or not, if you're personable, they tend to listen to you more, Matt, than if you're just rigid. So keep this in mind, guys. Walk around with your project manager, Adam, to the employees that work for you and talk around and make it a habit that you go visit with them as part of your communication skill. So that's a few things, guys, about communication. With communication is not me to you, Derek, or you to me as a project manager. Communication between you and Karen, and between Karen and Adam and Matt. Communication between members of the team is as important, if not more important, than the communication between the team and the manager, right? Don't you guys agree with that? So you have to develop a system. How are the people on the project need to communicate? A good employee, if you're working on a project, you're working on Revit Power, Adam is working on Revit Lighting on the same project at Mashhad Cooley. The first thing, expectation from our project is you don't come to me to coordinate with each other. You sit and coordinate between each other, right? You come to me if there's a conflict, but you should be able to solve all your problem, lighting and power, between each other. That's the communication, guys, that you need to encourage, system communication. There's something called information sharing. It's so convenient. When you work in the industry, information sharing, you're going to, in a team of 4 guys, you'll find Adam is not willing. He knows a better way of laying out. I'm going to pick on you, Adam. A better way of laying out fixtures in a place, but he is not willing to share it with everybody of the team. Okay, so he is not willing to share it with every member of the team, right? So that's hoarding information. That's what you don't want to have. You want the information convenient for everyone. Sharing the information to be the single most important thing. If you know something that my expectation as a project manager is that that makes the project successful, its expectation, Adam, is to share with everybody in the team. That's expectation for a project manager. That's not what happens sometimes in the field, but that's then your job, Matt, as a project manager, is to make sure facilitate this. And if you see somebody's hoarding information, your job is to meet them with them individually and tell them that does not meet the criteria of the project that we're working on. Very clear, right? It's not a big deal. Walk contact, talk casual and catch up. We talked about this one, guys. If you're a project manager, that you're a jerk, nobody likes you. You don't look people in the eye. You don't ask about what's going on in their life. You need your life. You have to, but don't spend 2 hours talking about the Vikings or the baseball game, whatever. It's nice to walk around and talk and chat with people. We all like that, right? We're not machines, we're human beings. So make it a habit, Karen, when you're a project manager, to walk around, talk casual, talk to the people, talk with the people. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind in terms of communication. So reward those who communicate, and do not allow others, I can't emphasize others, to hoard the information. This is one of the most important things, guys, with organization. You'll find certain people who are, for whatever reason, and there's multiple reasons, they will hoard information from their team members. That will affect the goal of a project. The goal of a project, or a project manager, to make sure that the project is successful on time, within budget. If you are hiding information or holding this information from your team member, you're basically not contributing to the success of this project. Would you tolerate this one? Non-tolerated. Now, how do you solve this problem is a whole different topic. There's challenge, conflict resolutions and what's not. But as a project manager, Karen, you have to keep in mind that in your team there will be certain people who will be hoarding information, others who will be sharing information. You have to reward the people who share information. You have to chat nicely, communicate properly with people who don't share information, and not chop off their head, but ask why are they not sharing information. When I was in charge, I used to tell the people, that, Matt, that your job security and your pay is directly related to how many people, how much information you share with your colleagues. Very clear. Make it the policy is in your company. It's nice when you sit as a team and the project manager, the more you share with the team members, the more valuable you are to the organization and more job security you're going to have in this organization. Very clear. So that will make the people relax that, hey, that's the expectation from us. And the more I share, the better employee I will be, the more job security we'll have. Hopefully that will motivate people to share. I'm not saying they will, all of them will, but that will motivate people to share. Any comments, guys, about communication? Communicating with the people. Communicating is two-way street. So we talked about the readers, listeners, and exchangers and movers, things that there's also the movers in communication, those who need to move around to think or process clearly. So different ways of communication. There's one thing, Adam, about communication too. The two circles that they call them. This is the sender. This is the sender. This is the receiver. And communication happens right here when the sender and the receiver meet, right? So communication is two-way street. I send, you receive, and you send, and I receive. I always say, guys, I pick on, if anybody listens, I listen to public radio, you can tell, right? So I listen to, what is public radio, 91.1? 91.1 megahertz. This is the frequency that public radio, Minnesota Public Radio, send at 91.1, right? Now, if you want to listen to the public radio, you have to tune yourself to 91.1. That's your sender. The receiver is Chad Curdy, sitting in his car listening to 91.1. So, see what I mean? You have to tune yourself. They have to send at this frequency. I have to tune myself to this frequency. Same thing, Adam. I don't know what you listen to. If you listen to your favorite radio, you're going to tune yourself to that frequency. If you don't, if you're a sender, sending at frequency that I'm not tuned to receive, there's no communication. Same thing, guys, in the project. In order to have a good communication, I have to send at frequency that Karen can receive, and Karen have to tune herself to that frequency that I'm sending. if I am not sending at the frequency that she is receiving, or she is not tuning to the frequency that I'm sending, one of us have to change, right? Or both of us have to change, adjust our frequency. Okay, this is what I like frequency. This is what I can tolerate. As a project manager, guys, you're in the lead. This frequency, sometimes that you send out, are set by the project successful. You might adjust it slightly, but if you're a project manager, you have frequency that you send out, right? You can fluctuate it, adjust it, but you can't just completely change it because your frequency is supposed to be meeting the project successful. I can't just say, well, work whenever you want. If we meet the deadline, we don't. If we don't, that's okay. That's fine, right? Here's a frequency that matches certain people, but I can't do that. As a project manager, you have to kind of have your frequency that you're gonna send out, and you have a fluctuation, a bandwidth in the telecommunication industry, call it a bandwidth. Within a bandwidth, you can get 91.1. I think it's 0.5 mega plus and minus. That's the bandwidth that can get you that frequency. You go higher than 0.5 megahertz in this side or that side, you completely go to other channel, right? So I can't emphasize, guys, that communication take two people. Communication take me sending at frequency that you, Adam, are receiving. Now, sending and receiving, you have to buy into the product to send and receive. And I hope if I'm your supervisor at Mashad Cooley, and you're working for me, Adam, well, we all agree that we are buying into this project. We have a hospital, right? And we're working on it. We agree that we buy into it. So we have a buy into the product, right? Now the challenge is, how am I going to tune myself at a frequency that you can receive? By sending emails is one way. Maybe Adam doesn't like talking; he likes email. Send him an email. That's nothing. Still achieve the goal, right? Send an email, send a memo, talk to him, go there and chat one-on-one, or have a meeting and communicate with him in a meeting. So you can fluctuate, guys, but ultimately you keep an eye on the frequency you're sending at. That's supposed to be the frequency of success, that guarantee the success of the project. So keep in mind, receivers and senders have to meet in a certain area where you can communicate here. That's the area. Now, the more area you get, so you can see the more area, the better the communication. Here's the sender and here's the receiver. Oops. Look at that. Now we are communicating in a bigger area. And that's the difference between the people, guys. I can communicate with Adam in this area. Look how bigger area to communicate with emails and what. And I communicate with Matt with a smaller area. There's a minimum amount of communication required in the project, minimum, for the project to be successful. And that's the project manager will dictate the minimum amount of communication. Like I told you, minimum amount of communication between you and Adam is I give you an assignment and you do it in time within budget. That's minimum amount of communication. You know what I mean? Now, you have mistakes. That's also expectation. Minimum amount of communication is involve a mistake once, twice, not three times, the same mistake. That we're not communicating. If you are making the same mistake three times, Matt, we're not communicating, right? The same mistake. I'm not saying different mistakes, same mistake. So then it talks about the senders, guys. The senders, we have to have the purpose for a communication, guys. When I communicate with you, I need to have a purpose for you. The project manager, when they meet with you, they have to have a purpose. The body language that you display that communication can give the way you, as a project manager, the way you in your meeting. So here's the deadline. If I say, you guys, we have a deadline, and you can see me laid back, guess what the team is going to be? Laid back. So the way you convey your information, the way that the team are going to pick on it. So body language is a big deal. Now that's the communication. The receiver, guys, there's a few things that could affect the receiver, the bias. When you communicate, there's a reason with your employee, assuming you are the right person on the job, assuming you have everything is the right person in this project, right? All these are assumptions, which is right assumption. Otherwise, you shouldn't be at Mashad Cooley or at Parson if you're not the right person. They chose you to be the right person. There's bias. A lot of communication, some people guys don't receive because of certain bias. I don't like to work for Derek, but I really like to work for Karen. in the organization. That's a bias. So you have to go, you have to learn that people do not receive because of certain things. That could be the bias. There's also noise, the noise that can affect you. I'm too busy and you're communicating with me. It's not the right time. So you have to take into consideration noises or the right time to communicate with people and the bias that people have when they communicate. Your job, Derek, as a project manager, when you communicate with people, and this is the area of communication, your job is to widen this area of communication with people and eliminate any barriers between you and the people that you communicate with. And this is, I hope you guys will see that the easiest, the certain organization take into, you probably, you've seen them, not going to say names, but there are certain organizations, guys, you walk in, they were here, right? They say either you fit or you don't. What do you think, you fit or you don't? When they stood right here, a couple of project managers, they said either you fit or you don't. They don't give you a second chance. Literally, either you fit in the culture of the organization or you don't. They have a culture of their organization that they have set, the owner and the project manager. That culture might be completely different than your culture, Derek, but it's their culture. If you are to enter this culture of organization, you either have to fit in this culture or you're out. You know what I mean? That's really so when you have, that's what, when you are, as a new employee, and they're watching you, you're not going to set the stage for communication. They're watching you. Your job, Derek and Matt and Karen, is to look at what is the culture of this organization. How can I fit in the culture of the organization? Um, Now, how can I change the culture of organization? That's in the back of a good employee's mind, but you can't walk in the day one. I had a student, guys, walk in. I'm not kidding you, without saying names. In the interview, he was telling the project manager that's going to hire him, I think you guys are doing it wrong. I'm not kidding you. A student from this class went for an interview, and they were showing him what they do in this organization. And his intention was right. His intention is, I'm valuable to your organization. I'm going to fix it. But it came at the worst time you can imagine in an interview. You're coming, you little guy in the eyes of that project manager, you're coming to correct us? I mean, who the hell are you, basically? That's kind of attitude. So be very careful when you go to the job interview. You might see something, and I'm not saying you're wrong, Derek. You might be completely wrong. And by the way, that guy, knowing who he was and his background, he was right. He was completely right. I know he's right. But in front of the employer, the guy who hire you, you're nothing. You're first, wait a couple of years, learn our culture, know why we do it this way, and then Jesus Christ, you save us, right? Is that, keep in mind, guys, that's the things that happened here in this class. And he wasn't picked. Why do you think they didn't pick him? They said, oh my God, man, the guy thinks he's Jesus Christ coming to save us here. Which he could, but wait, right? Wait until you walk in and then learn their culture, and then you change the culture from within. That's what a good employee would do. So your job, Derek, when you're communicating with the people that you manage, is to remove the barriers. Why don't the people listen to me when you're a project manager? Why don't the people listen to me, right? That's the question. Why won't the people listen to me? The problem could be with you, with the people, or with the communication, with the frequency. You're not hitting the right frequency that people can receive. With the interest, you guys don't listen to me. Maybe you are not interested in this topic. That's understand. But if you work for me at Bishad Cooley and you bought into coming, let's say, Parson, you bought into Accubid, Derek, and we hired you to work right now. You bought into the process. No reason to. If you don't want to, if you're not communicating because you don't believe in the process, you shouldn't be here. Very clear, right? Does that make sense? Buying in the product first, we're assuming you're in a company where you buy in the product, buy into what they're doing, right? And then when you buy, why aren't you listening? Then we start, if we're buy into first, and then maybe because I'm not communicating properly for you. Maybe you like to have a list of things to do instead of Chad yakking at you because you forgot what he's going to say, right? And a lot of people, like I said, I like when I communicate, guys, to have a book and talk to me fine, but have things written in front of me. That makes it easier for me to communicate. So remove the barriers, noise. We talked about the noise, guys, as a project manager, noise, things that disturb you. There is noises that I can remove, Derek, and noises that I cannot. Your fight with your wife and children the night before you came to the job, for example, and every day you're fighting and you're in the middle of a divorce and all this stuff. There's certain tolerance that people guys can have, but it gets too old. That what we say. We all have certain amount of problems in our life. You're expected to kind of put them on the side as much as you could. I'm not saying you're a robot, but you're expected to kind of minimize the external influences in your internal performance in this organization. Am I right? Do you agree with that? So you have, if you want to succeed, if your expectation from a project manager is not every day I walk in and Matt is crying because his girlfriend left him. Okay, maybe the first day she left him, we can say okay, but the second day and the third day, and he can't finish his project because his girlfriend left him, it gets a little bit old. Does that make sense? I'm picking on you, Matt, today. So these are noises. The noises that you can remove internally, guys. Kakai, if you give a play, I don't know, maybe the person need. You're doing Accubid, Derek, at Parson. Maybe you need multiple screens to do a better performance. That's a noise. You're not communicating with me because you can't plug it. You're not delivering on time because you need more sources to work on. You need more time. You need uh, a quieter space to do your takeoff, right? Um, Adam, if you're doing power layout in Michelle Cool Erickson and you're not delivering, you're not receiving, your supervisor said deliver this on time and you did not, then you're not communicating. There's a reason. Maybe you need some training, extra training in laying out the power. So keep in mind, guys, removing the noises that you can. Typically, anything related to the organization, you typically have full control over it. Any external noises, you have limited control over these. We talk about the attitude, guys. I heard it over and over the years, Karen. Higher attitude, not training. If you have a good attitude, I can teach you how to do things. But if you have a bad attitude and have your best training, nobody can teach attitude. Um, and you talk about a lot of it. How do you define an attitude? Is a whole different story. You walk into the organization, a good attitude would be you're excited to be here, but if you're dragging your feet to walk into the organization every single day, that's not a bad attitude. If you every time you see on the organization the bad stuff, not the bad, the good and the ugly, that's not a good attitude. If you're negative in everything that you do, guys, will never work, right? And I'm not saying you guys are still sucking up to the employees to hire you. So you're not. When you stay there, Derek, for 10 years and you get into the politics or 5 years, people are watching and what type of an attitude you have. And you see in your boss, are you complaining all the time? Is the whole world is collapsing around you in that organization? You need people who are happy to, excited, happy performers. That's a good attitude. Walk in. I'm not saying every day you walk in excited, but you need at least to have a perception that you like this field. You walk in, you're dragging at Mishad Kuli that you're doing Revit today, and they hire you to do Revit. Well, I mean, don't you think that there's a conflict when you were hired to do Revit or CAD or whatever? So having a good attitude, guys, a go-getter attitude. As a manager, I like the people who not only do what they are assigned to do, but also ask for more. Many managers, guys, love those people, and they might not have a lot for you guys, but Derek, it means a lot when you're done with the project. They say, "Boss, is there anything else I can help with?" Look at the words. You're not demanding something, but is there anything else I can do? Um, and a good employee, guys, which we are in the 24th century now, we have a lot of good employees. This is not the 1800 where people enslave each other. In the 24th century, guys, people understand one thing, Derek, and you were laughing. A father of a child balance the work. Every organization now, guys, almost every organization, balance the work and life. There's a balance between work and life. And they're not going to bring you every single Saturday take you away from your golfing or from whatever you do, guys, to work on the project. But it means a lot to the project manager that you told him, I am willing to come on a Saturday to finish this project. Even if he didn't take you on it, it means a lot. I can depend on you. You're a guy that I can depend on. Don't you think it's nice? To be able, as a project, you guys are going to be a project manager. You're going to be dealing with project deadlines. The project got screwed up, and now we have a deadline on Monday morning, and it's Friday afternoon, and there is another day of work. So what are you going to do? Tell your boss, well, sorry, boss, it's weekend. I'm not going to sacrifice my weekend. A good employee, guys, will coordinate, organize things. And I'm not saying it's every weekend. Believe me, it doesn't happen every weekend. Coordinate, well, let's go to work this Saturday and finish it. And a good employer, a good project manager will give them a Monday or a Friday off to compensate them for that Saturday or pay them. You know what I mean? That's what a good employer and a good employee. That's called ownership of the project. You own the project, means the project, when it succeeds, it's yours. When it fails, it's your baby. Even as an employee, as a manager, of course it is. But as an employee, those are the guys I want to hire and keep on your project. People, guys, communicate. They tell you communicate better when they have a similar experience. I assume you guys came here to get an electrical experience, right? That's what you experience. You go to work in electrical company. If I send you to work in a plumbing company, I'm not saying plumbing is far away, but if you go work for the Star Tribune writing essays, they have different philosophies and different training and different, you might not fit based on what we get you. Our experience here, our goal is to get you to be a trainable, good employee, trainable in the electrical industry. That's what our goal is, right? That's how I gauge my success. If I send Aram and he becomes a trainable in the electrical industry as a designer, or Derek as an estimator, or Matt as a designer or estimator, same thing for Karen. Um, so that's then within the circumstances that we're talking about, guys, in terms of communication, that's what you're gonna work. These are your circumstances. That's why we talked about the plan, sticking to the plan. Be innovative, but at the same time, keep an eye on the watch, keep an eye on the destination, keep an eye on the budget. Delivery deadlines are sacred. Deadlines are sacred. It's not like deadlines is movable goals. We didn't meet our deadline, no problem. Let Hunt take the project and Parson not. There's deadline is a deadline. That's how our industry works. On a deadline is a deadline. And I'm not saying they're going to chop off your head, but if there's a deadline, you have to stick with your team and finish it and reach the deadline. You're part of the team. You fail with the team, and you succeed with the team. So. Any comments, guys? Any questions about communication? And I'm sure if you guys go, there's, like I said, you can have a bachelor or a PhD or whatever, master in project management. What we're giving you is enough project management as an employee to fit in, as an employer or not an employer, as a project manager to find the right team, member team in terms of communicating with them. So I can't emphasize the word communicating casually, guys. People are not robots. I have the tendency, I'm an engineer, I have a tendency of communicating via email a lot. And I discovered over the time, especially with the old timers, Derek, it's really, you can get a whole lot out of them if you go, especially if you can't get rid of them. You can get a whole lot out of them. We'll walk in there, have a cup of coffee with them, and tell them what you want. They'll get it done. You send them an email, it might not, the email might disappear, you know. But I'm not saying that that's what happened in the electrical industry, guys. The electrical industry is completely different. Engineering or construction, an email from your supervisor cannot disappear. If it disappears the first time, yeah, maybe in some ways, but second time, the third time, flags. Remember that flags? Flag 1, flag 2, flag 3. More flags you accumulated, the more likelihood they're going to be um, the first member of the layoff, basically. You turn. That's it. That's a reality. They might, if not, they fire you. If they don't fire you, a lot of people don't like to fire guys, so they use the layoff as an excuse, and they have a list of people in their organization on the list. If we are to slow down, this is the list that has to go. Make sure you're not on that list. It really is, as bottom line. I'm telling you, as a manager, I had a list of certain people. If we are to slow down, organization's good, everybody. That's if we're to slow down. Here's my list. And the people that you don't want to be on this list. Be proactive, buy into the project. And this is that I don't like the scary tactics, but the really is the reality. Really is. So you want to be proactive on the project. Nice, good attitude, Derek. Care about the organization. Personable, all this good stuff, guys. It helps. It helps the project move through. Care about the organization success. If you have a bid on Monday morning, right? It'll be nice, and you work on that bid. You don't go to your office and it's Friday after Monday, 4 o'clock, and you left home and you didn't even ask, did we get that bid? So you should be excited, right? You work on that one. You go to the project manager if you didn't know, if he didn't text you, or if I were you and work on it, I'll go tell the project manager if I wasn't there. Could you email me when we get the bid? Update me on what happened. You're excited. You're gonna get a bid. You're gonna get a job for your company. So that's what you show interest. That you're interested in the success of the company, not just a paycheck. Um, you know, and a lot of people want just a paycheck, but like I said, if you want to grow and become a project manager, a job is not more than a paycheck. A job is a career. A career is a life. You love what you're doing and you will do it again. That's what I always tell the people. If you don't like what you're doing, life's too short. You have to love what you're doing and like to do it again and again and again. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, um, it's going to be work, and work is hard. So make it a hobby, a life, a career. You like what you're doing, you enjoy it. It makes the day go faster, if not anything else. Any comments, guys? Any questions about these? So I encourage you, the ones who who will be project managers, guys, is to, like I said, grab this book, read it when you become a project manager. It's practical project management. There's so many of them, guys. This is the easiest one that I found that talks about this topic. Um, a lot of other topic. We talked about how to communicate with people, and a lot of this is common sense, not really rocket science. Um, Communicating with people. Um, and we talk about leadership and motivation. And leadership and motivation, Karen, when I became a project manager, I read probably 16 books about leadership and motivation. And all of them are GE, CEO, whatever, or all these leadership, big companies leadership talking about their experience. I read a book, Derek, I'm not kidding you, about leadership, and there's an old man, a manager, I can't remember which company. He kept he's an old man. Okay, his solution is, hey, the book says, well, send him to the old man. And here's a young man like me, relatively young man, becoming a manager. I want to learn something. Well, I'm not an old man, so it doesn't apply to me. You mean? So you're not an old man, so you can't take advantage of 40 years of experience. You can't. You will at one time, but you can't now. So how are you going to manage when you're a young man? I always wondered when I was reading this book, I said, great, if I was 65 years old, that would be great for me. I'm 40 years old. I don't have that much of experience of the old man. So the book was honestly for me, being a new manager, worthless. It's good to read. I enjoyed reading it, but the old man, people listen to the old man. Typically they do. You know, no, you guys are a young man and a manager. How are we going to listen to you? That's going to be your challenge. How are you going to manage when you're young? When you become a manager, especially if you don't have a lot of experience. Obviously, you have to have enough minimum experience, and then you're going to manage. You don't have a lot of management experience. You have a lot of work experience, but not management experience. So keep in mind that there's a lot of books. Some of them might not relate to you, especially from leadership um, and motivation. For communication, to wrap up, guys, I always say that the single most important thing I learned from communication is this two-way street. Everybody has to tune up to the frequency that we're sending in order to receive the public radio, 91.1 megahertz. That's what we send. Fluctuation zero point 0.5 megahertz from both sides. That's the bandwidth that you can get. You go further than that, you're outside the parameters of the project. Um, that's you're just outside the parameters of the project. Doesn't mean it's a big deal. We just have to bring you back into the communication channel that we communicate through. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to achieve. And without communication, you cannot. Why is communication has a whole chapter for it, guys? If you don't know how to communicate, or if your team does not communicate, you will not reach your goal, which is a successful project. A successful project within budget, on time, with happy team workers, team, and happy customer. Well, I'm not going to say names. One of the guys that came here, guys, they told us they have a project manager that all the vendors were pissed off at him, the vendors, because he always kind of play them against each other, try to cut costs to get projects and all this stuff. There's a lot of tricky games that you can play, guys, to succeed. But ultimately, a good success is a win-win for everybody. You need to win, but you don't want to go squeeze a low voltage contactor with $5,000 on $1 million job. And you say, well, I succeed because I took $5,000 out of that low voltage contractor. I would rather personally make a $25,000 profit instead of 30, and allow that little contractor to have a little bit more money. But you can't take a loss, though. You can't take a loss. But a lot of people get squeezed, and people to get an extra $1,000, $2,000 on a project. You want a happy. When you're done with your project, your ultimate goal is everybody who participated in this project, Adam, is happy. From the designers into the estimators into the customer, of course, they have to be a customer, quality work, into the electrician who worked on it, a project manager, all those are happy, and we made money. That's a very successful project. And the foreman, as well as the electricians, as well as the team, the estimating team would love to work for Derek, another project of Derek's projects, because they really treat them good and keep them on track and make money for the company. Does that make sense in our construction industry? Okay, gentlemen, any comments, any questions for your friend Chad? Does that make sense? So I'm going through this book, guys, as part of our initiative for management. Like I said, we have a speaker this week, so he might say a few things about the way they manage, and plus introduce a project, introduce a job. Okay, so my expectation there, Derek and Adam, for this week for you guys, since we're doing takeoff, please, if you have not finished the power and lighting, finish the power and lighting with Accubid. Make sure you put them in the right location. If you're done with that one, please start your low voltage. I want to remind you guys, low voltage material, we already took it as a coated material, Matt. Remember that coated material that we did for low voltage? What we need to do is the wires. Take the Cat5 and all this good stuff for wires and devices. Make sure you go. They're all there, guys. I checked almost all of the low voltage devices, fire alarm, security phone, data. All of them are in the Accubid. Go ahead and take them. And we take them as wires and devices. So, like I said, Tuesday, Matt, you and I will, after a lecture, we'll sit there and we'll look at starting at your residential, commercial, industrial project. So see where you are on these. Like I said, guys, I have minimum things I would like you to achieve from these projects. So not want to punish you, but I would like to have a minimum things achieved. Cool. Any question for Chad, gentlemen, ladies, gentlemen? Okay, thank you.